My husband cheated on me with a stripper, and I had no idea. Then, right at my birthday party, surrounded by guests and gifts, he calmly announced that she was pregnant with his child. Everyone was stunned, and I couldn't believe he chose that exact moment to destroy everything. It wasn't just betrayal, it was public humiliation on the most personal day of my life. I was standing in the middle of his filthy living room, holding a slice of pizza on a flimsy plastic plate, gray balloons drooping over my head, reflecting the flickering light of a dusty lamp. It was supposed to be my birthday, my 36th. But instead of feeling loved, I felt something rotting inside me, in my chest, in my stomach, in my memories. Nathan, my husband of 8 years, suddenly stood up, asked everyone to give him a moment, and after a dramatic pause, announced, "Jessica is pregnant, with my baby." It landed like an explosion in a sealed room. And yes, he said that at my birthday party, in front of my family and his family, with my mother sitting an inch away from me, and his sister Jamie clutching a serving fork like she was about to throw it across the room. I don't remember how I got to the bathroom, or how I locked the door, or how I ended up sitting on the cold tiles trying not to howl. Even now, I can taste the metallic sting of humiliation. As I sat there, his words echoing in my head, flashes of moments I should have questioned started surfacing. But I didn't want to believe. I had clung too tightly to the image of a man who once rescued me from complete loneliness. I met Nathan when I was 28, not long after my dad died suddenly from a heart attack. I wasn't just grieving, I was empty, barely functioning, smiling at work, but blank at home. Nathan became my anchor. He was 10 years older, calm, composed, confident. Someone who always knew the right thing to say. His attention felt like a lifeline, and I held on without question. Our story started like a romance cliché. He took me to nice restaurants, opened doors, brought flowers for no reason. We'd go on late-night drives, talk about books, play old songs in his car. His family was cautious at first. Conservative, traditional, nothing like mine. But Jamie, his younger sister, quickly became my closest friend. We picked out clothes for each other, gossiped about shows, had weekly brunches. Sometimes I felt like it was her love that kept our marriage stitched together. Nathan proposed to me at a surprise party. I said yes without a second thought. I wanted stability, belonging. I wanted someone to say, "You're not alone." But within the first week after our honeymoon, things started to shift. He didn't want me changing anything in the house. His bedroom was off limits. I brought a couple of pillows, he took them away. Hung a small painting. He asked me to put it in the closet. I started feeling like I was just a guest, not a wife. Still, I brushed it off. Told myself it was just an adjustment phase. Moving in together, learning each other's routines. But every day there was something new that irritated him. First, it was my closet. He said, "No normal woman owns that much clothing." Then, my fridge magnets. I'd collected them from every trip, every little adventure. He called them tacky, and I kept giving in. Because they're just small things. Because he's great otherwise. Because I didn't want to fight. I wanted things to go back to how they were. The first 2 years were rocky but manageable. We had weekly date nights. He played golf on Sundays. I saw my friends. We had space. It worked. For a while. Then Nathan changed. Became moody. Possessive. Out of nowhere, he started talking about kids, even though we had both agreed it wasn't for us. He began fantasizing about me being barefoot, pregnant, making dinner in a cozy sweater, repeating it like a prayer. When I pushed back, he said I was scared of responsibility. I didn't understand where it was coming from. He knew I loved my career. I wasn't going to give up my identity for someone else's fantasy. And yet, I kept trying to hold on to what I thought was real. Until the day I found myself in that living room, surrounded by sad balloons and lies, and realized this time I wouldn't let it go. Because someone had to finally stand up and say, "Enough." After that party, I couldn't eat or sleep. It felt like everything happening around me wasn't real. I moved into my mother's house the very next morning, packed a bag in silence, and left before Nathan even woke up. Even in that moment, I was trying to be delicate. Not to make a scene, not to slam doors or yell. Just disappear while I still could. My mom didn't ask a thing when she saw me at the door. She just put the kettle on. We didn't talk about the dark circles under my eyes or my shaking hands. She simply laid out breakfast like she used to when I was sick as a child. And I realized how much I'd missed that. Ordinary, unconditional care. Sitting in her kitchen wrapped in a soft robe, memories started to rise. Moments I once dismissed as everyday misunderstandings. But after Nathan's confession, everything took on a new meaning. I began to see a pattern in the things I had once excused. He started changing during the 3rd year of our marriage. At first, it was harmless remarks. "You're wearing that skirt again?" Or, "Why were you chatting so long with the waiter?" I used to laugh it off, not taking it seriously, but he'd frown like I had wounded his pride. Then came suggestions to dress more modestly, even if I was just wearing a button down. Once, he told me he didn't like other men staring at his wife. I stayed quiet. I thought that if I deflected or made a joke, the tension would pass. But it didn't. It grew. He began gently discouraging me from seeing friends, framed it as concern. "You've been tired lately. Better to rest at home." I believed him. I think I wanted to believe someone genuinely cared. But real care doesn't suffocate you. Over time, I stopped feeling like myself. I gave up dresses I loved. I stopped posting photos online because he said it was immature. I even stopped putting on makeup on weekends. At some point, I realized I'd become a blank version of myself. Neat, silent, convenient. There were other strange things, too. I'd leave my phone on the table, go take a shower, and return with a weird feeling that someone had touched it. But I couldn't accuse my own husband of snooping. That sounded absurd. Or did it? One time, my friend Rachel sent me a meme. A few days later, she asked why I hadn't replied. I had no memory of it. Checked my phone. No message. I thought I'd accidentally deleted it. But then it kept happening. I'd miss out on things my friends swore they told me. People would say, "But you promised." And I'd have no idea what they were talking about. Now, I know. Nathan had started isolating me long before the affair. Little by little, so subtly I didn't notice. First my things, then my outings, then my messages, and finally, my trust. I remember one Friday night I was getting ready for a girls' night. Nathan just sat on the edge of the bed watching me, not saying anything, as I chose earrings. Then he said quietly and flatly, "If you loved me, you wouldn't dress up for other men." I took off the earrings, put the dress away, told him I'd stay home. He kissed my forehead and called me his good girl. And for some reason, I felt disgusted. But I stayed. I'm not sure anymore if that was love. It felt more like submission, a habit of explaining why someone who loves you keeps hurting you. When I finally opened up to Jamie about the clothes, the controlling comments, the missing messages, she was stunned. And she said something I haven't been able to forget. "Brooke, that's not care. That's surveillance. That's control. It's dangerous." From that moment, I began writing everything down. The smallest things, dates, events, comments. As if my instincts knew the truth was coming. But to get there, I'd have to survive my own marriage first. I was used to rationalizing his odd behavior. I dismissed the unease in my chest, blaming stress, fatigue, or the weather. But at some point, it became impossible to keep pretending everything was fine. That day, I was getting ready to meet some friends. I'd chosen a dress. Nothing revealing, just a simple dark blue one, knee-length, long sleeves. When I walked out of the bedroom, Nathan looked at me and frowned. He didn't say a word, just got up and went into the garage. On my way back, I noticed some clothes were missing. My favorite blouse, a pair of jeans, a few t-shirts. Things I wore often. I tore through the closet, checked the laundry, even looked under the bed. Nothing. I asked him directly. He shrugged. "Maybe the dry cleaners? You're always misplacing things." Said it calmly with a lazy smirk. I felt something twist in my gut. 3 days later, while cleaning the garage, I opened an old printer box by accident. Inside were my clothes, neatly folded. The exact ones. On top, an old photo album of mine, pages covered in sticky notes. I froze. Not from fear, but from the cold realization. He wasn't just hiding clothes. He was hiding me, piece by piece. When I asked him again, he acted clueless, so I showed him the box. He said nothing. 1 minute. 2. Then finally muttered, "You dress too provocatively when you go out." "I'm just trying to protect you." It wasn't his words that unsettled me. It was his tone. Calm, detached. Like this made perfect sense. Like this was normal. I snapped. Told him he had no right to decide what I wear. That his accusations were humiliating. That I had never once given him a reason to suspect anything. He didn't argue. He just stared at me like he was calculating how far I'd go. After that, he changed tactics. Softer. Kinder. For a few days, flowers, takeout, compliments. I almost believed things were back to normal. But one thing kept bothering me. I'd stopped getting messages. Friends said they'd texted about plans. Coworkers said I missed emails. I checked my phone. Nothing. Sometimes messages came through and then disappeared. I updated my phone, did a factory reset, bought a new one. That same night, around 3 a.m., I woke up thirsty, walked to the kitchen. The living room lights were off, but I saw his silhouette. Nathan was sitting on the couch. In his hands, my old phone and the new one. Scrolling through them, head down. I froze. He looked up, startled. We stood in silence for a few seconds, then came the awkward excuse. I'm just checking why the old one doesn't work. His voice lacked confidence. I didn't respond. I walked over, took both phones. He didn't stop me. The next morning, he tried again to explain. Said he couldn't sleep, missed me, wanted to see if everything was working. I asked him directly, "Did you delete my messages?" He looked me straight in the eye and said, "No." No pause. No hesitation. I didn't believe him for a second. And that's when something inside me snapped. This wasn't insecurity or a rough patch. It was a system, a pattern. He had been cutting the outside world out of my life, deleting, hiding, isolating, calmly, methodically. That night, I messaged Jamie, told her everything. She replied instantly, "I'm coming, tomorrow. We'll figure this out." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone. Like he wouldn't get to control everything anymore. He wouldn't decide who I saw, what I wore, or what counted as truth. The next morning, I woke up to a knock on the door. It was Jamie. No makeup, takeout coffee in hand, and a bright pink backpack slung over her shoulder. She hugged me before even stepping inside, like she was afraid I'd change my mind. We walked to the kitchen in silence, and it wasn't until she set the cup down that I realized how badly my hands were shaking. I told her everything. The missing clothes, the phones, the deleted messages, and how he reacted when I caught him. Jamie listened without interrupting. At one point, she closed her eyes like she was trying to digest it all. Then she said quietly but firmly, "You're not imagining things. This isn't a phase. He's isolating you." She insisted I stay away from the house at least until the end of the week. Said she wanted to talk to Nathan herself. Calmly. No drama. But first, she wanted to see what he did when no one was watching. The next day, she drove to his house under the pretense of picking something up from the basement. Later, she told me she'd shown up unannounced on purpose and found a car in the driveway that shouldn't have been there. Beat up, blonde, clearly not someone from Nathan's social circle. She didn't ring the bell, just parked and waited in her car. Half an hour later, a young girl came out, blonde, wearing an oversized t-shirt with no bra, phone in hand. She turned back toward the door, kissed someone in the frame. It was Nathan. Jamie snapped a few photos. Nothing explicit, but enough to raise questions. Then she drove straight to me without warning. When I opened the door, her face was something I'll never forget. A mix of fury and heartbreak. "He's cheating," she said, still standing. I saw her, at the house. Young, much younger than us. The floor dropped beneath me. Everything, light, sound, even air, disappeared. I just stood there staring at the ground. Jamie kept talking, but her voice was muffled, like behind glass. She said she'd been watching for days, that the girl had been there more than once, that Nathan wasn't even trying to hide it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I just walked to the bathroom, sat on the cold edge of the tub, and braced my arms against my sides. Breathed deep, over and over. And one thought wouldn't leave my mind. What if this isn't what it looks like? Maybe it was just a visitor, a coworker. But I knew. I had known for a long time. I just didn't want to admit it. When I came back out, my mom was already in the house. Jamie had called her on the way. I sat between them and for the first time in months let myself break. Mom rubbed my back. Jamie held my hand. And for once, I didn't feel ashamed, just angry. We decided to act. I booked an appointment with a divorce lawyer. We made a list of next steps. One of them was hiring a private investigator. I didn't want to spend the money, but the lawyer was blunt. If you want to win, you need proof. While the investigation was ongoing, I kept a calm face. Went to work, talked to coworkers, cooked dinner with my mom. But inside, I shook. I couldn't even look at old photos of us. They felt staged, fake. Then Jamie found her on social media. Her name was Jessica, 23, a dancer at a shady club outside of town. Her captions talked about second chances and a man who accepted her past without judgment. And I knew. She meant Nathan. Our next step was clear. Jamie suggested, let's talk to his parents. Not to accuse, just so they knew. Because odds were he was lying to them too. When we visited, they were polite as always. But when Jamie showed them the photos, their expressions changed. His father went silent. His mother went pale. He said everything was fine. She said that you were just going through something. Nothing serious. I nodded, then pulled out the documents from the investigator. Photos, names, addresses, timelines, everything. They didn't speak for a long time. Finally, his mother whispered, "We're with you." He's lost his mind. We began making a plan. I wanted him to get everything, right to the face. Not privately, but in front of everyone. So there would be nothing to deny. The closest date that made sense? My birthday. After speaking with Nathan's parents, I didn't go back to their house, but I didn't go straight home either. My mom offered to let me stay until things calmed down, but I felt like I had to go there at least once, into the house where I'd lived for 8 years, and collect my things calmly. No yelling, no drama. I didn't want him to think I was running. I wasn't. I was leaving on my terms. I told Jamie in advance. She offered to come with me, but I said no. Something deep down told me I needed to do this alone. The house greeted me with silence and damp air. The windows were shut, the curtains drawn, as if the space itself was trying to forget that anyone had ever loved here. I walked into the kitchen, dirty dishes in the sink, empty takeout boxes on the counter. He wasn't trying to pretend anymore. Maybe he thought he'd already won. I opened the closet. Some of my clothes were missing. Clearly, he'd thrown out what he used to hide, or burned it, or gave it away. Oddly, I didn't even feel anger, just fatigue. I quietly packed the rest. Clothes, a few old journals, a photo album or two, makeup. Nothing extra. No sentimental objects. No something to remember this by. On the shelf was a book we once read together when we moved in. He used to joke I read aloud like a stage actress. Now the cover was torn, the pages stained with coffee. I left it behind. The bedroom was empty. Just his clothes folded on the bed. Jeans, a t-shirt, a charger. On the nightstand, a bottle of cheap cologne. He'd even replaced the smell. Everything around me felt foreign. I zipped my suitcase and stepped into the hallway. As I was leaving, I saw the welcome mat had muddy footprints on it. I knew whose they were. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my mom's couch listening to every creak of the house. In my head, I imagined him showing up, calling, banging on the door like he'd done before. But he didn't. Just endless notifications on my phone. He was texting, complaining, blaming, begging, on repeat. 2 days later, we went to see the lawyer. He reviewed the PI's report, made copies, asked questions. Then he said, "The strongest evidence is a confession. Public. If he says it out loud, the rest becomes support." We told him our plan. The birthday party, Nathan's parents. The lawyer nodded, said it was risky but powerful. I knew. We might not get another chance. Nathan's parents arranged the birthday party. They insisted on making it look like a normal celebration. Naturally, Nathan wasn't thrilled. He texted me that morning, trying to confirm if I'd show up and whether he should even bother preparing anything. I replied evenly, "I'll be there. Thanks for organizing." He had no idea balloons were the least of my concerns. That day, I dressed plainly. Black slacks, a light cardigan, hair smoothed back. Everything about me screamed calm, even though I didn't feel it. My mom insisted on coming. We arrived early. Nathan opened the door with a stone face. Tried to smile, but it looked hollow. Behind him, the house felt darker now, but somehow more his. Inside, it was pitiful. A few dirty balloons, a lopsided cake on the table, greasy pizza boxes. He hadn't even tried to make it look like anyone's birthday. When his parents arrived, he tensed a bit, but I kept up appearances. We sat at the table, made polite conversation, waiting. Jamie came last. She carried a gift box with a thin folder tucked inside. Not for me. We all began to pretend, laughing, talking about the weather, waiting for the moment he'd open a door he couldn't close again. I remember the moment he stood up. We'd just finished a slice of that drooping store-bought cake. Someone made a joke about turning 36, and the room buzzed with forced laughter. Then Nathan cleared his throat. The air shifted. He lifted his glass and said he wanted to say something important. Everyone turned. His mother tilted her head. Jamie lowered her fork. My fingers tightened around my napkin. Nathan looked around and began his little performance. "I know tonight's supposed to be about Brooke," he said, pausing for effect. "But I've been holding something in for too long. And I think this is the right moment, to be honest. With everyone." He took a breath. "I haven't been happy. Not for a long time. I felt ignored, emotionally manipulated, and constantly second-guessed. Brooke never truly respected me. She made me feel like a failure, like I was never enough. I didn't move. Neither did anyone else. He continued, more confidently now, like he'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. She left me, after I caught her hiding a second phone. After I finally confronted her about everything I'd been feeling, she walked out and never looked back. A pause. Another dramatic breath. If it weren't for Jessica, I don't know how I'd have made it through these past few months. She's been my light, my peace. And now, we're expecting. She's 2 months pregnant. Silence. I felt Jamie stiffen next to me. My mom's hand slowly set her glass down. Pregnant. He said it like a victory, like a final blow. Like he wanted it to hurt. And it did. Not because he'd moved on, but because this was how he chose to end it. On my birthday. Surrounded by my family and his, with smugness in his voice and lies laced between every word. I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't ashamed. He was proud. That's when my mother stood. Without a word, she picked up her glass of Sprite and tossed it directly in his face. Gasps. Chairs scraped. Nathan flinched, blinking through soda dripping from his hair. "You're disgusting," she said, her voice shaking but clear. Jessica, sitting in the corner like a guilty secret, froze. Jamie stood next. "It's over, Nathan," she said coldly. "We know everything. About Jessica. About the messages. About the clothes you hid. About the spying. About her record." He blinked again. Jamie didn't stop. "She's a dancer at a club known for illegal activity. She's got an outstanding warrant in another state. She's not your fresh start. She's your downfall." His parents looked horrified. I stood slowly, reached into my bag, pulled out a manila envelope. Nathan saw it and froze. "What's that?" "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "Now that you've admitted to cheating in front of witnesses, this should move faster." I walked across the room, past his stunned parents, past Jessica, who was shrinking into herself. I placed the envelope directly in his hands, looked him in the eye. "I'm done being polite. I'll be taking everything I'm entitled to. You can thank yourself for that." And with that, I turned. My mom joined me without a word. Jamie stayed behind, glaring at him. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could already hear his parents' voices rising. By the time we got to the car, I felt weightless. Shaking. Yes, but lighter than I had in years. Let him clean up his mess. I wasn't going to save him from this one. The morning after the party, I woke up to 23 missed calls and nearly 40 messages from Nathan. Some were angry, some were desperate. Some said things like, "I can't believe you humiliated me like that, and you've ruined my life over one mistake." Others begged, "Please, let's fix this. You don't have to do this. I'll change." I didn't respond to a single one. My lawyer had warned me. Keep communication open, but don't engage. Let him talk. Let him reveal more. So I kept my phone on. I let it buzz and ring. I let him unravel in my notifications. 3 days after the party, Jamie called. "She's gone," she said. "Jessica?" She left, took whatever she had at his place, and disappeared. She'd left a note, apparently. Something vague about not wanting to be involved in drama. Jamie had heard it through Nathan's mom, who was still furious. Jessica had also admitted during a screaming match with Nathan the night after the party that he might not even be the father. That was the first time he stopped calling me, but it wasn't over. He started dragging out the divorce through his attorney. Filing delays, petty counters, refusing to return my belongings unless I came to pick them up personally. My lawyer handled most of it, but every day brought new layers of exhaustion. Meanwhile, the investigator continued gathering receipts, literal and emotional. We had records of every transfer, every withdrawal, every dinner date with Jessica charged to our shared credit card. I thought that would break me, seeing it all, line by line. But it didn't. It fueled me. The proof made everything real, and that made it easier to let go. Nathan, on the other hand, was slipping fast. His parents had called me separately. His father first, apologizing, angry. They'd learned about more than just Jessica. Turns out she wasn't the first, just the one who stayed long enough to cause a public collapse. "We're disgusted," his mother had said quietly. "I don't know who he is anymore." They told him in no uncertain terms that if he didn't finalize the divorce quickly and without further damage, they'd cut him out of the will. I think that shook him. Jamie later confirmed he looked like a ghost when he left their house. Pale, sweating, still trying to argue, still defending himself. But his words didn't carry weight anymore. I didn't feel sorry for him. What I did feel was grief. But not for him. For the version of myself who had once believed so deeply in him. For the years I spent trying to shrink myself to make space for his ego. For the love I gave, the patience, the compromise. And how little of it came back. At night, I lay awake sometimes, not crying, but remembering. The way he used to brush my hair back behind my ear. The way I thought that meant something safe. It never did. But I wasn't alone anymore. My mother had become my anchor. Jamie. My shield. The two of them kept me from falling, from softening, from rationalizing his behavior. Don't forget who you are now, Jamie told me one night over takeout. You're not just someone's wife. You're someone. Those words stayed with me. The divorce wasn't final yet, but I could see the end of the road. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came after. I started looking at apartments, took on more hours at work, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, even joined a local gym, something Nathan used to mock me for. I was rebuilding, not from the ashes, but from what I chose to keep. The divorce became final on a Tuesday. It was quiet. No courtroom drama, no final showdown. Just a signed decision from a tired judge who, according to my lawyer, was done watching Nathan stall. After months of delays and petty tactics, it was over in 20 minutes. Nathan surrendered everything I asked for. The lawyer said it wasn't out of generosity. It was fear. His parents had followed through on their threat. If he didn't cooperate, they'd cut him off entirely. No inheritance, no family support, no more safety net. I walked out of the courthouse, blinked against the sun, and exhaled. Not dramatically, not with tears. Just a long, full breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for years. I was free. Later that evening, Jamie brought wine and takeout to my new apartment. It wasn't fancy. Just a small 2-bedroom with pale blue walls and floors that creaked a little when it rained. But it was mine. Every chair, every photo on the fridge, every candle was chosen by me. I still can't believe it's done, she said, pouring wine into mismatched glasses. I can, I replied. It was never going to last. I just didn't want to admit it. Jamie smiled. You're different now. Stronger. It's like you came back. I thought about that. About the version of me who had once apologized for everything, who changed outfits 3 times before going out, who tiptoed around moods and silences. That version felt so distant now, like a character I'd outgrown. It wasn't just the divorce that changed me. It was everything I'd survived inside it. A week later, I got the final invoice from the private investigator. I paid it without blinking. It wasn't just a fee. It was closure. Evidence that I had never imagined any of it. That I had been right to listen to my instincts. Nathan hadn't reached out since the final signing. Maybe he finally understood it was really over. Or maybe he was just embarrassed. Either way, the silence was the best gift he could have given me. Then came a message from Jamie. An invitation to her wedding. You don't have to come if it feels weird, she wrote, but I want you there. You're my family. I hesitated. Not because of Nathan, I knew he'd be there. But because it would be the first time I'd walk into a room where people once knew me as his wife. I didn't want that title anymore. But I RRSP'd yes. Not for him. For her. For me. I bought a new dress. Soft green, simple, with a fitted waist and sleeves that made me feel like myself. Not flashy. Not for attention. Just for comfort. For confidence. At the wedding, Jamie looked radiant. Her fiancé was kind, grounded, exactly what she deserved. During the reception, she pulled me aside, hugged me, and whispered, "You made it. I'm proud of you." Later, I saw Nathan across the room, alone, slouched in his chair, swirling his drink, eyes tired. He didn't approach me. Didn't speak. Didn't smile. I didn't either. I left early, before the dancing, walked out into the crisp night air and drove home with the windows down, music low. At a red light, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Not sad. Not broken. Just still. And steady. Back home, I sat on my bed and opened my old journal. The one I hadn't touched since the day I moved out. I flipped to the first blank page and wrote one sentence. I'm not a victim. I'm the author of what comes next. And for the first time in years, I believed it.